What's up, athletes? Welcome to another video discussing your training and how we can be better athletes and better people. Today I wanted to talk about a better way to execute our intervals. So generally twice a week at this point in the year, you will have intervals. Either maybe that's a weekly race series race or intervals. Generally, we're looking at 4 to 8 minute intervals, sometimes a mix of both, sometimes all the way down to 30 seconds to 2 minutes as well. And each of these intervals serve the purpose of preparing you for race day. That's the goal, right? That is the end goal with our training, is for you to be prepared on race day to be able to perform well. The reason why 4 to 8 minutes is kind of the sweet spot is because oftentimes that's sort of the range of the whole shot and then kind of settling into your pace. It can also be the range of attacks or short climbs, especially with NICA courses where they're generally flat. They have punchy climbs that are sometimes as short as 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. And so these shorter high intensity intervals will prepare you really well for race day courses. So this is what I wanted to talk about though. There are good and bad ways to execute intervals. And I wanted to talk about the good ways today so that you can be most prepared for upcoming races, especially all of you are racing, pretty much all of you are racing NICA this fall. And that's a lot of the big focus for the year for most of you. That's where most of your biggest goals are. And so this is really crucial training time at this point to prepare yourself to be able to race as well as possible for each of the 5 NICA races or for the Junior Devos 3. And here's the key. The closer you get to racing, the more race specific your training should become. So I'm going to be doing this from a structure standpoint, but it's your job to do it from an execution standpoint, which means, like, let's say your first race is Eagle Mountain, that's a fine example. What we should do then is analyze the course. We should analyze how long you think the climbs will take you, and maybe even go out there and do your intervals on that course. Does that make sense? So as we get closer to our specific race, maybe you're racing at Snow Basin, which has a steep fire road climb, in which case I would do your intervals on steep fire road climbs. That way you will be prepared and you will understand what sort of effort, what it feels like to be doing an all effort on something like that. Or maybe you're racing Richfield where it's just pretty flat, in which case I would go do your intervals on flat trails, not flat roads, flat trails. That's what Richfield is. You could go to the lower trails at Lambert Park, like River and Middle and High Bench, that just have minimal climbing, kind of a few punchy things. So I want you to think about your race courses, think about the first race on the NICA calendar for your region, and think about, okay, where can I ride around here that will be similar to that race course? So I honestly like Lambert Park is a good example. It's a pretty small trail system, but there are trails there to simulate virtually every race course. When I was in high school, if I was preparing to race at Moab, where it was pretty flat, I would do intense, hard 4 or 5 minute intervals on High Bench, River, Middle, Lambert Luge Up, Pump the Rocks, all those sorts of trails where I could just hammer for 3, 4, 5 minutes. And honestly, it doesn't even necessarily matter a ton the time range, as long as it's a sustained amount of time on some of these things, and that it's going to be similar terrain to what you're racing on. Because here's what happens. Let's say generally NICA races are pretty flat, but let's say you go and do all of your intervals going up the Jacobs uphill climb, and then you try to race on a flat race course. You're not going to do as well as the person who did their intervals on a flat race course. That's just the simple fact of the matter. Where the best preparation, now that we're getting specific, as we're getting closer to the training, is trails and workouts that are going to be most similar to your races. And if you don't feel like you're getting that, talk to me. Let's make a plan together and figure out what you feel like would be best for you. I'm going to do the best I can in giving you what you need. But I'm not going to tell you all where to ride, right? So you're going to need to go think about that. Think about, okay, what's this climb going to look like? Where can I go? What's this flat section going to look like? How can I go execute an interval that's going to be similar to it? And let's say you know the course pretty well, and maybe there's like one 5-minute climb and then one 5-minute flat section. I would do a mix, perhaps, where you do a 5-minute climb and then a 5-minute flat section. And again, these don't need to be precise, but they can be focused sections where it doesn't need to be like the exact elevation profile or the exact time even, but the idea is you're getting more and more similar to the racing. So a lot of these intervals are done at race pace, and the whole purpose of these is to figure out what is my race pace. What can I sustain for 8 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 30 minutes, right? And then, or what can I attain if I have a 4x8 minute interval session? What does that last interval look like? And these are going to be similar. I mean, generally in a NICA course, it's kind of flat out really for an hour or so. And so, but a 4x8, that's going to give you a pretty good gauge on, okay, what does this look like for me? What, at the end of an 8-minute interval, how am I feeling? Am I going to be able to sustain that for longer? What is this race pace feeling like? Is it manageable? And how am I doing on different types of terrain? So think about your race courses, and I would focus primarily on the first one, because then for the 2 weeks between, we can focus on the next one, and then the next one, etc., etc. Maybe like do 80% focused on the first, and then intermit some that are focused on the other courses that you have during the year. So the other thing is, like, as we're getting more specific, you can practice your race warm-up if you want to before your interval sessions. You can practice your fueling, your nutrition. You can practice race day bike setup. You can practice PSI, like how much pressure you want in your tires. You can play around with different suspension setups and things like that. The idea is that by the time you get to your first race at NICA, which is actually, I think, 1 month from today, pretty sure it's August 19th for a lot of you, you're not guessing, right? You don't show up on August 19th and you're not like, oh shoot, what should I eat for breakfast? Oh no, what should I put in my water bottles for my feed? Or, oh no, how fast can I push myself on this 5-minute flat section, right? You don't want to be asking those questions on race day. You want to be asking them right now. And if you want to have a conversation about that and kind of talk through what that would look like for you, because if you're unable to kind of figure out it, I think most of you are capable of doing this on your own. You can go onto the Utah MTB website and look at the race course, analyze it, figure out where you want to work on, where those key sessions are, where you think people will be making attacks, where groups will form, where people will get dropped, all that stuff, and figure out, okay, what can I do? What can I practice right now so that I can be ready for that 5-minute climb, or maybe so I can be ready for that 30-minute lap, or 20-minute lap, whatever it might be, and so that you don't have to guess. Does that make sense? That's really the goal here, is we don't want to guess on race day. We want to know within really small margins your capacity and what that will look like. And also bike setup, fueling, all that stuff like I talked about before, you want to know your limits on. If you have questions about this, call me, text me, comment below. Let's make a plan together. But again, try it first. This is really good mental strength work to think through and think about what can I do. And if you feel like you need a specific workout, talk to me. Because really I'm giving you intensity I'm going to give you purposeful intensity, but if there's something else that you feel like could be really beneficial for you for a specific race, talk to me. And I'll run it through it and make sure it made sense. I'm not just going to do exactly it necessarily. I might, but we'll talk about it together. And but I want you to do that work yourself, to go out there and figure out, what is this course going to look like? How can I be prepared to race it? So again, any questions, reach out. But as always, thank you for watching.